those panties on the floor. I know that you want some more. Give it to you nice and slow. Give it to you all night long. Met you down at my boy's crib. There were hella bitches, but you're different. Caught a vibe and there was it.
Sometimes trying to find the right book is a little like trying to find the right food at a food court. It's just a bit overwhelming. So in this video, what we wanted to do was tell you some of our favorites so you could go out and get them and wouldn't have to spend 5 hours in a bookstore. But it is kind of fun to spend 5 hours in a bookstore, at least the one I'm in. If you're looking for books, don't discount looking at the kids' books, because honestly, what's most simple is sometimes drawn out in the best kids' book. This top, this is number one on our list because it teaches rudimentary stuff that's not taught anymore. First page, for example, it says, I have a best friend, and that best friend is me. I know it sounds stupid and small and inconsequential, but a book like this, read to a kid, you know, below the camera height right now, is going to mean mountain loads later. We read it to both our kids. One of them's 17, one of them's 24, 25-ish coming up, and they've kept a lot of this stuff in their head that was brought out from this book. So that I won't go any deeper, but just say that it's really good to read it to them. And for you too. Maybe you should read it once. Just flip through it. What's 5 minutes for some simple adult stuff you need to keep in your head? Bobos in Paradise by David Brooks. It's the new upper class. This book, I think everybody in the family has read it, maybe except for Lyman, but he'll read it. Maybe he did read it. I think he did, because he thought when we were all reading it in the house and we were passing it around, it was one of those books where you get into it and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so happening in our daily life. It's like you're reading about some of the inside things of how people behave, like when you drive by a Starbucks and you see all these cars in line for Starbucks and you wonder how that happened. Or you see, oh, here's another good example. You see everybody online that has shiplap. How'd that happen? Or everybody has a certain type of tile in their house, or they choose to cook food in a certain way. This book deals with a lot of that. In this book, it shows you how the bourgeoisie melds with the hippies. Yeah, the hippies. So the author says the bourgeoisie and the hippies like meld together and they become the Bobos. I'm gonna read a little excerpt just to wet your whistle. But the Bobo renounces accumulation and embraces cultivation. He must show in the way he spends his money that he is conscientious and not crass. The emerging code of financial correctness allows Bobos to spend money without looking like one of the vulgar yuppies they despise. It's a set of rules to help them convert their wealth into a spiritually and intellectually uplifting experience. There we go. And I won't give you, the ending or anything like that. You need to read it for yourself and enjoy it like we did. And it'll probably pass around to your family too. I feel like you should have a goatee on, going, read these books. Next up, this is The Living, Loving, and Learning by Leo Biscaglia. And I'm just tell you when you go to the bookstore and you go to get his books, you're going to go, oh my God, you guys have us reading 1970s books. And I'm sorry, they do look a little bit 1970s books, but what's in them is the meat, and you need to get to it. It's all, Leo Biscaglia was a doctor. He's no longer with us, but he was like a doctor on love. And I know that sounds cheesy to some of you, but it's the love that you have between your granddad and you, your mom and you, just super good love. I mean, you can't even express it through the camera. This one particular book, The Living, Loving, and Learning, they're excerpts of all his teachings or his lectures at USC. He was a professor, and he started a class on love. He has a bunch of other books. I'm reading one of his right now. It's just called Love. It's a very simple title, but I think we all know how non-simple that is. And that's how these books work, is it shows that it's so varied and vast, and it's just a very intriguing read. I'm going to read a little excerpt from it real quick. Bear with me.
Most of us remain strangers to ourselves, hiding who we are, and ask other strangers hiding who they are to love us.
Next little tidbit for this book of Leo Biscaglia's that I need to read to you so I can tell you how good this is. As we hear the rain slowly start in my backyard. Love is always bestowed as a gift, freely, willingly, and without expectation. We don't love to be loved. We love just to love. Sweet, 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 sweet words, good to live by. Next book up is pleasantly colored, but it's called Range, Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World. It's by David Epstein. It was loved by Malcolm Gladwell. A lot of you guys that know us know we like Malcolm Gladwell too. This book in particular is very much like reading the Bobos in Paradise, because it's about stuff that you're not always thinking about. Basic premise of this book is where the author tells you that the person that has many things they do through their life versus one thing do through their life. The basic premise of this book is when the author is explaining things, he's explaining that the person that has a lot of things he does through his life versus someone that doesn't do but maybe one thing through their life, how those many things better equips them to be able to problem solve in their job better, to problem solve in different areas of their life better.
Lawyers.
Probably. What do you mean? I'm not gonna say all that. So Range here. Range is actually proving that I need more range. I need a couple more jobs so I can do this job better, probably. All right, Range, best described for you guys would be the author is trying to put you in a place where you see how if one person has 15 or 16 jobs through their life versus a person that has one single job through their life, how the experiences of that person that had the larger number of jobs or things that he did, it incorporates into his life all his ways to problem solve better, and to actually not even just problem solve with your job, just with life. You can cope with life a lot more when you have a lot more situations you've gone through. Since I didn't explain that well, or probably not as good as my wife would want me to, I'm going to read just a little bit of the flap inside.
Plenty of experts argue that anyone who wants to develop a skill, play an instrument, or lead their field should start early, focus intensely, and rack up as many hours of deliberate practice as possible. If you dabble or delay, you'll never catch up with the people who got a head start. But a closer look at research on the world's top performers, from professional athletes to Nobel laureates, shows that early specialization is the exception, not the rule.
I'll leave it there. Coming up is, you all might laugh, but it's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it's by Robert Kiyosaki. When Christina first got this book, I made fun of her until I read it. The scenario in this book is the author, his dad, he tells how he grew up and how his dad was always working for money and always working for money. And then it compares him to a friend of theirs, of their families, that viewed money in a different way. Small quote from the author.
The main reason people struggle financially is because they have spent years in school but learn nothing about money. The result is that people learn to work for money, but never to have their money work for them.
That's the absolute best description of this book. Everyone needs to read this to get a grasp on money. So, since we're together and you're listening to me and I have your rapt attention, another book coming up from the Starmer household top 5 or 7 or 6 is The Shack. The Shack is by William Paul Young. It's probably 15 years old. It never gets old. And once you read it, you could drop it for 10 years and come back and read it again. Christina bought this book and she came home and she said, I bought this book because the marquee said it would change my life. And it did change mine and it changed hers. Invariably, what do you do when something changes your life? You want to spread it. We buy this particular book when we see it at a thrift store or an estate sale or wherever. This book, we pick it up, we put it down, we buy it for $1 and we find people to give it to. It's pretty fun because we know they're going to enjoy it as much as we do. So it's just 100% go read it. Out of all these books, go read it. It's wonderful. I promise. So you've heard you are what you eat. Well, you are what you read. So feed your brain some good stuff. This is enough for a little over 2 months of reading. If you read a book every 2 weeks, which that's not really tough. Just find some time to do it. See you guys. I have no good words of wisdom other than find the right book, eat it up like good food, and enjoy it. I still don't understand that, but whatever. It doesn't matter to me either. You can, they should. I'm closer. No.
You haven't had enough jobs.
No, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me that again.
Train of thought.
No. I think that book's stupid. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
What?
See ya, mother.